Don't ever think that you're better than the people you're speaking to. And don't ever think that you're higher than anyone else. Because if that's the case, you will never be able to reach their hearts. Speak as though they are better than you. And you just need to get a message to them. So I was telling this brother that I want to learn something from you. Tell me something that I can take to people. And he looked at me and he said something amazing. He said, look, I'm a businessman seated on this flight. I fly every week. And he says, every time I think about how I started, how we were when we were young, and I want you to pause for a moment, and every one of you think about yourselves or your fathers or grandfathers, where they started. There must have been a time when they could not afford shoes. I'm sure you all know that, right? There was a time perhaps when they could not afford school fees, okay? But they were much more content than us. And we today are sitting here, such a beautiful function, and still we have more complaints than all of them put together. We complain more than what we used to when we did not have. Because that's how materialism works. When you run behind the dunya, guess what? It always runs faster than you. You can never catch up. You have the latest phone today, the saddest news tomorrow morning, there's one later than that. You're depressed again. So this brother was telling me, I recall the day when we struggled, we suffered. Then I entered into business and suddenly, boom, everything went because of something that happened. Now sometimes the brother didn't explain to me, but some people, they have their factories burnt. I told him, how did you cope with this? He says, it took me not long, it did not take me long to figure out that I can never ever suffer a loss. Never. Why? Because when I came into this world, I was naked. I had zero. So whatever I have today is more than what I had the day I was born. That's it. That's my motivation. I tell myself, oh Allah, the clothes I have, I did not have when I was born. He says, I was clothed when I came onto earth. I was given things. Imagine handouts. Whether it was your folks or someone else is besides the point. Someone was kind to you. And that's why you had clothing. But when you came onto the earth, you had zero. And when you are going to leave, you will still have zero with you besides your deeds, obviously. And I was very impressed by this. I looked at him and I digested what he said. And I thought about it for a long time. And here I am sharing it with you. My brothers and sisters, we have been blessed. And indeed, if you were to try to count the gift, you would never be able to count all of them. For indeed, man is not only oppressive, but he is ungrateful, filled with ingratitude. But we are mu'mineen, we are different. We should be filled with gratitude. Part of gratitude is to understand. Many of us do not understand. Indeed, in sustenance, there is a reason. The reason is to test you. What are you going to do? I've given you. And your neighbor, I haven't given him as much as I've given you. What are you going to do? That's all. When you die, there are two things. What you earned is one and what you spent is another. You're going to be asked about both. And you know what will happen in the case of a lot of us? We've earned way beyond what we were able to spend. And then he says, لِيَنْظُرَ كَيْفَ تَعْمَلُونَ. It was in order for him to see, what do you do? What's your deeds? I've tested you to see, what are you going to do? I've given you to see, what are you going to do? So what happens? We've been given, we've been blessed. Every one of us is blessed in our own unique way. Have you identified that blessing? Some have been blessed in more than one way. The blessing I have, you may not have. But you have a blessing that I may not have. It does overlap at times. But what do I do with it? If I am the top educator in the country, what have I done with it? Have I only made it a means of income for me to live on earth? If that's the case, I've forgotten about the hereafter. I've taken it out of the equation. I've really misfired. I haven't understood. And I happen to be the best educator or teacher of a specific subject. Have I ever reached out to people without wanting monetary reward? and said, I'm going to spend some time teaching those who can't really afford to get to me. And I'm going to spend a few moments volunteering. They don't always want your money. Perhaps they might be able to benefit from your expertise way beyond what your money would have done. And I always tell people that I learn from the verse.